What's up everyone, I'm Dan, and if you've been following me for a while, then you'll know that I love horror movies, so anytime a new one pops up, it gets me excited to watch it. The first trailer I saw for The Boogeyman sold me on the idea of the film, so it was one that I was excited to watch. Based on the 1973 short story by Stephen King, directed by Rob Savage and starring Sophie Thatcher, Vivian Leigh Blair and Chris Messina, high school student Sadie Harper and her young sister Sawyer are still reeling from the recent death of their mother. They're not getting much support from their father Will, a therapist who's dealing with his own intense pain. When a desperate patient unexpectedly shows up at their house seeking help, he leaves behind a terrifying supernatural entity that preys on families and feeds on the suffering of its victims. Now, the movie starts off promising with a lot of tension of the unknown, what lurks in the shadows, in the closet or under the bed. One of the film's strongest aspects is its atmospheric tension. The director creates a sense of foreboding by utilizing dark lighting, eerie sound effects, and subtle camera movements. The audience, for the most part, is kept in a state of unease, never knowing when the next scare will come. The suspense builds gradually, allowing the tension to simmer and intensify. The characters themselves are fine and the actors do the best they can with what they've been given, but it all just seems very familiar and your usual horror themes and character emotions play out as you'd expect them to. There is a theme of grieving and letting go of the past of loved ones, but it's not focused on long enough to really make an impact on this family or on the story as a whole. The emphasis is put squarely on this entity that is stalking this family and the effect it is having on the two sisters. In one sense, you could see the Boogeyman as this family's grief, and their battle with it is them overcoming the loss of their mother and wife. But things are presented so obviously for this to really work as intended. I'll go into that more later. It's all a very simple plot, and once things start going, once the suspense is broken, the film never really allows the audience to just sit in the darkness long enough to experience the fear this family should be feeling. There's a trope in horror movies where usually a child sees something and is terrified, but no one around them is listening or believes them, and it's starting to drive me crazy. It's almost as bad as, oh, look at that haunted house over there. Anyone who goes in there never comes out, so let's go in and die. Like, come on, it's really annoying now, and the Boogeyman doesn't do anything to try and move on from that idea. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad movie. However, it does have a fair few issues. It also doesn't feel very much like a Stephen King story. Much of it feels very generic, much like the Boogeyman itself, which I feel is shown far too early in the film. A build-up of creepy things like doors opening slowly by themselves where it could be explained by the wind and not just being burst open, floorboards creaking in the dark, things that could be explained away as being normal occurrences in everyday life, but at the same time can spark that sense of dread in you. This is what this movie needed. However, it goes in completely the opposite direction and shows its hand at every turn. Less is more is where this needed to be. The Boogeyman should have explored deeper themes related to trauma, grief, and fragility of the human psyche. It should delve into the power of childhood fears and the lasting impact they can have on our lives. The idea that the Boogeyman represents more than just a supernatural entity symbolizing the darkness that resides within ourselves. As things turns out with this film, we get no backstory as to where this entity comes from, if it's the only one of its kind or if there are more feeding on the fear of others. The design of the creature itself is neither here nor there, it's fine, nothing particularly terrifying. That brings me to my next part, that the Boogeyman is not an overly scary film. The characters fall into the same trap of the usual horror movie cliches, putting themselves in unnecessary danger, but there is a tension that carries on throughout the film. There is some interesting use of light and darkness, however again, less would have been more effective for inducing fear in the audience. Writing this review actually made me angry at all the missed opportunities this movie had and how much better it could have been had they just held back a little bit more on the obvious scares, which in the end didn't even turn out to be that scary. The Boogeyman starts with a lot of promise but falls short at nearly every hurdle. Horror fans may find some enjoyment from it for the most part, however it's probably not a movie you'll be rushing to see again. It doesn't bring anything new or interesting to the genre, so it feels like treading through familiar waters. The lack of any real scares and the waste of tension left me feeling a bit disappointed. The Boogeyman is out now in cinemas. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more if you're new here, and I'll see you next time.